I'm thankful you brought up the comment about partisanship. I was in an event a couple weeks ago, and a lady raised her hand. She asked a question. She says, "What can be done to help fight gridlock?" And I was in utter stunned silence by myself there. I heard the speaker say, "Well, you just need to make sure that not one Republican is ever reelected." And then we sit in this debate and this conversation and we wonder, why there's so much partisanship? You know, one of my planks and things that I tell people, you know, I pastor a church. I don't pick this group and that group. I think that's wrong. There's actually a biblical mandate that you can't tell people to sit this close or that close. There's neither free nor a slave nor Jew nor Greek. It's all. You have to accept all humanity. The other side of that is in the approach that we constantly have. You know, I sometimes wonder if the kids aren't in the car and the adults are in the parties fussing at each other. And the kids are just kind of wanting someone to come and take care of them and make sure that business is taken care of. I've always had a staff policy at my church. If you're on staff, I'll say, listen, we're going to go back there, we're going to make a decision. We're going to fight it out, we're going to duke it out, we're going to policy it out, we're going to figure it out. But when we open the door, we're going to come back out and we're in unity. We support each other. We're going to make sure that we serve people. Because it gets down to people. And the bad part of it is, and I've already heard it up here, you know, it's kind of the straw man talk poll and fighting this. It's a good public speaking debate. We talk about this and we talk about that. We want to take this. You know, the truth is, the honesty is that unless the parties decide to work together, we are going to be hung out on a cliff. And you better have someone who's honest with you enough to say, listen, we're spending too much, we're wasting too much, and we have to make the hard choices. And it's not their fault, it's not their fault, it is our fault. And my opinion is it's many times our fault in this room for not making sure we have held their feet to the fire and make sure they have done what they said and get them out if they do not hold true to that mistake.
Yeah, the truth is that the Republican Party, up under the control of the Koch brothers, Karl Rove, Stuart Abramson, and other big pocket donors, and their will being enforced by the loud microphone coming over the EIB network a la Rush Limbaugh, which will punish any Republicans who don't toe the party line. That's the problem. These Republicans have a strategy that they have embarked upon, which is to say no to everything, to not enable or allow President Obama to have any victories. And the focus or the goal was to be able to inflict so much pain on the American people that when it came time for re-election, then they would vote for anybody to replace President Obama. And that strategy may or may not work. I think that it probably will not work, but that is the reason why Congress is in gridlock. One party, it's not the Democrats, not Nancy Pelosi, first female Speaker of the House, who is a brilliant politician, willing to sit down at the table and talk to anybody and try to get the work done. We just simply need to have partners who have the courage to buck Rush Limbaugh and the Koch brothers and all of those industrialists and billionaires who want more and more tax breaks and less regulation. We need to have people in Congress who will buck those folks and go with protecting the middle class.
You know, that is exactly what I'm talking about. We haven't heard anything about George Soros telling some people to pull in the line. I know of one story last week of a young actress of color who twittered that she supported Romney. And it's amazing the diatribe and the hatred that went out to her just because she spoke her conscience. The other side of that one is, you know, you just think about all the discussions we have. And it's always easy to sit and blame. But if I remember right, it's the Senate Democrats who've not let a budget come to the floor. So again, you can't sit here and tell people who hurt that it's their fault.
Mr. Reverend,
thank you. I'm on a soapbox.
Congressman, you do have a 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta call the truth where what it is. And everybody knows that the Republicans have had a strategy to just say no. We need for that strategy to change. When it changes, then we will be able to deal with the important issues that Americans expect us to address, like immigration, schools, the military, the environment, all of those kinds of things, in addition to creating jobs.
Okay, let's move on. With our current funding of elections, considering Citizens United and super PACs, what will you do to restore our democracy? This question, we can begin with Mr. Riley.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, I would support a plan put forward by Drew Weston, the political science professor at Emory University. Mr. Weston wrote the book that probably many of y'all are familiar with, The Political Brain. That's his book. He wrote a lengthy op-ed piece in the New York Times some months back in which he advocated two things in regards to our elections in this country. One is the idea that we're just going to have to enact or embark upon an effort to enact a constitutional amendment to undo the Citizens United ruling. That Citizens United ruling came out of the Supreme Court that allows unlimited corporate and union contributions has not served this country well. What we've seen as a result is huge sums of money, many times coming from people who keep their anonymity and secretly pass it through these accounts that are controlled by these various 501c4 entities under the Internal Revenue Code, and the super PACs that are then turning around spending these huge sums of money manipulating our elections and essentially minimizing the role of the individual voter. We've got to overturn Citizens United. But the second thing is a bill that I referenced earlier, and that's the act called the Fair Elections Now Act. Currently, in its last configuration, it was known as H.R. 1404. That's a bill that would basically enact a matching fund type arrangement for congressional elections, similar to what we've had in the past in presidential elections, so that candidates could run for Congress and have matching funds available if they're able to raise a certain amount of money. In exchange, and this would be voluntary on the part of candidates, but in exchange, candidates could only receive limited sums in terms of individual contributions, but it would make for a situation so the average American could actually contemplate running for Congress without being concerned about whether or not they could afford it. Look, sadly, Mr. Woodall's championed a plan that's been very, very good for the country in terms of the idea of having to turn over monies at the end of an election cycle rather than spend them in the next. So I'll let him tell you about that one.
We'll actually get to know this one first.
I've read several bills that have been proposed that would zero out, that every congressman would have to run from $0. I think that would be incredible. You know, I'm a no-name. I joke about this. And it's, you know, and the other side too is you have to be involved. I applaud everyone here taking time out on a Monday night when you could be at home doing something else to be involved in the process. There will always be. I mean, I remember hearing during McCain-Feingold some of the things, the different issues. You know, there's always going to be a need for finance reform campaign because no matter what rule you set, somebody's going to find a way around it. That's just human nature, unfortunately. So you're going to always have to be diligent to protect the rights. But the other side of that is, and I guess it's actually probably one of the most heart-wrenching parts of me in this race, is I've met people all across the district, and I'll ask them, you know, just engaging, are you registered to vote? Nope, not going to vote. I'm like, why not? Number one, they'll always say, I don't want to do jury duty. I then take them through the lesson that you're not going to do jury duty on that. If you got a driver's license, you're doing it. Then I'll do the other one, and then I'll get really serious. I say, why not? I'm just not going to be involved. You know, there's a certain level of involvement and requirement. I think it's sad. I just finished reading some books about our early founders, and one of them in particular fought against the party systems. So because of the fractious nature that we become. Sad to say, you know, that in the state of Georgia, if you want to run as an independent, it's very hard. Very hard to get the signatures to do it, which is why there's a two-party system that's strong. So I think, you know, you're going to always have to stay diligent, whether that is, and if you disagree with Citizens United, as many do, then you have to fight to change that legislation and let that process work. But that will never take place unless we get more people like this involved. which I so appreciate preaching earlier. I don't care who you are, but get involved and come to the table and make sure that you can actually affect the outcome of our country.
Well, you can imagine how I felt looking at the May fundraiser where people paid $50,000 a pop to get in, and President or Governor Romney talked about the 47%. And here I am sitting over here in the 4th District of Georgia, made the runoff against an incumbent with $126,000. People still are amazed that that could happen, and I say only in America. I'm kind of like Rob Woodall. I don't spend time making calls. Representative, you probably have more money in your campaign account than I do.
I'll take that wager.
You probably do. But we really need to fix this issue of campaign finance. Right now, the big boys, the corporations, and the wealthy individuals are the ones who are controlling public policy through the representatives that they control. We need to stop that. The way that we stop it is through public financing of elections. That will get rid of Citizens United, and that will close the door on that chapter of how corporate greed and influence affects public policy here in America. We're just about ready to become a plutocracy in this country. We are just about at that point, and November 6th will let us know whether or not we're there or not. I think it's very important that people get out and vote for people who represent their interests, their economic interests, their pocketbook interests. Why should someone be concerned about the estate tax that only affects 3,200 families in America in 2012? It's ridiculous.
Thank you, Congressman Johnson. Representative Warren.
You know, Eric, I tell folks the most interesting thing I've learned in 20 months with this district's voting card is that folks on the other side of the aisle aren't just preaching to the cameras. They believe what it is that they say. And so when we talk about partisan gridlock in Washington, Congressman Johnson says November 6th is going to determine whether we remain a republic or become a plutocracy. I happen to agree with him that November 6th is going to decide whether we remain a republic or lose those freedoms forever, but we're on completely different ends of that. Not because we're not smart folks, not because we don't work hard, but because our view of the world is very, very different. And so when we talk about what happens in the halls of Congress, we talk about the money that's involved in